Stock up, stock down after Week 17. This is an article that KC wrote for Dog Pound Daily. Stock up, Grant Delpit, Tony Fields, and Deshaun Watson and the passing game. So without question, when you look at those, Delpit has played well the second half of the year, and I think they're finally letting him do some of the things he does well. It's kind of the way they're using him. And you saw in that second half a couple of the plays that really stand out. Defensive tackles and defensive ends that were getting a shot at Watson and couldn't bring him down. Now, he did throw one to one of his offensive linemen, but he still was able to avoid a guy that is 100, 150 pounds bigger than him and stand upright.
Yeah, what he did before he threw the ball to Conklin was amazing, though. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
It's and he got sacked 4 times in that first half, and it probably should have been about 7.
Right.
He's shown some escapability, and you're starting to see it click. And I think we're having a different conversation about him had, they not dropped those touchdowns against the Saints. I think we're talking about 2 games back-to-back where he's figured it out in the second half and made some big throws. And it's finally clicked. The receivers caught the balls and made plays after the catch, and that's that kind of got the floodgates open. And after that, they scored touchdowns on 3 straight drives. That's something we hadn't seen since Watson took over. So, it's definitely encouraging, and we just need to see that momentum carry over into Pittsburgh.
The other one is Tony Fields, and that's a guy that, he hasn't been healthy enough to be on the field enough. But I agree with you. I'm like, okay, there's a guy that can play linebacker.
Yeah, and when him and Reggie Ragland are on the field together, the run defense was much better. Tony Fields has that ability to fly around. He was kind of drafted in the same mold as a JOK, but he, like you said, he had trouble getting on the field early. And now, just due to injuries, he's being baptized by fire. And these are invaluable reps that he's getting. I think this is going to situate him really well for next season to be one of those backups that they count on immediately, just as a rotational guy. And, and like you touched on Ragland earlier with you and Jeff, man, he's a thumper. He's a different style of linebacker. He's the guy that really brings it. And I think you're seeing the Browns, it's through injury, but they're kind of discovering that they have a couple guys that they could use, just as a backup rotational role. But that's invaluable in this league.
So stock down, we have Jedrick Wills, junior left tackle. And it's been a really uneven year for him and Kareem Hunt. And again, Hunt is probably not going to be back. You're starting to see a little bit of Jerome Ford. And Ford's one of those guys, you kind of, it's like, okay, let's see what he's got. Wills is concerning. I don't think he is played as poorly as some of the fan base want to believe, but he certainly has not lived up to the 10th pick in the draft.
Yeah, I touched on the article. He's been fine, but fine is not good enough for a top 10 pick, because when you pay him, you're going to have to pay him like he was the top 10 pick. So it's got to be frustrating for Bill Callahan to see these things over and over again, these lack of efforts, not playing through the whistle, kind of playing to his own internal clock, and, not until the ref says stop. And he gets caught a lot with it, like that play with Conklin. He gets beat on. They missed the scheme, and he kind of gets stuck in no man's land where he's not doing anything. Well, if he just runs towards the play, Watson's keeping it alive. He could have found work very easily if he just ran to the play, but he didn't. He just stand there kind of scratching his head, waiting for the next play, I guess. And those stack up, and you're seeing a lot of clips on social media, and that's not the reality. He's fine. He's okay, but he needs to be better than okay. So I expect him to pick up his 5th-year option, but I don't know what happens past that.
Yeah, and again, he's going to get an opportunity. He's got to make the most of it. He really does.